Our protection of the Deferi peoples continues, with the USS Daring having disbanded a Breen mining operation that was using the Deferi as labour, and the rescue of several ships from Breen attacks. We're out on patrol once again when we receive a distress signal from a Deferi ship saying it too has come under attack by Breen. However, unlike previous incidents, the Deferi here were able to fend off their attackers and have even taken some prisoners. However, much damage has been done, so we move in to aid them. They're held up in the Rava system, which houses several M-class worlds, the second of which is always frozen due to its atmosphere reflecting much of the sun's heat. We detect the frigate easily enough on approach, and its captain requests that medical teams can beam over to help patch up their wounded. The ship, aside from some venting going on near the engines, doesn't look to be in too bad of a shape, so we beam over to assist them. The interior of the Deferi ships, unlike their constructs on Defera, are rather basic. There is little in the way of natural growth present, and the dull brown interiors give it a utilitarian look. We appear to be in a mess hall of sorts, which is being used as a temporary infirmary. We begin by approaching Dr. Cossa, who is overseeing the triage, and offer our medical training to assist. He begins by saying few have been killed by the Breen, which makes a lot of sense. Every soul left alive is another potential worker, although many have been injured. Cossa asks us to first talk to the patient on table 7, beginning with their history. This injured Deferi begins by telling us it hurts. That's helpful, we're going to need more. On the left-hand side, a disruptor hit from a Breen rifle. If we ask about allergies, she tells us Metorapan once caused inflammation and she almost died from it. Alright, that'll be important. She also tells us she's not on any medication at the moment and that she was repairing a plasma conduit on deck 2 when a Breen boarded and fired at her. We can also check in with our science officer for advice, and Temet suggests a painkiller first. Once that has been addressed, we can treat the wound itself. The other questions we can ask are irrelevant at the moment, but Temet points out how Metroapan is commonly used in pain management, so thankfully we picked up on the patient's history. With that information in hand, we can approach a well-stocked Deferi medkit and rummage through the numerous chemicals inside. We also have acinolathin, a muscle relaxant, and mild analgesic often used to treat muscle spasms. Bicaridine is a more serious painkiller used in heavier injuries. However, it comes with a warning that it is addictive if taken for too long a time, over 10 days, and as such, Metroapan is the preferred alternative. Hydrocortisone is used for headaches and is too mild. Morphenolog is used for chronic pain, as it's generally safe for patients on other medications to take as well, and Metroapan is not an option in this particular patient, although ideal usually for treating intense pains. A nice nod is that all of these medications have been used before in Star Trek. With that done, a quick application of a protoplasma can repair the damage done by the Breen disruptor. Alright, that was a good start, let's get our triage on. Speaking to Dr. Cossa again, we find our next patient over on table 3. This fella is sitting here clutching his head, so we ask him what hurts, and he starts talking about an older boy named Tosca who broke his toys so he couldn't play with them. Have you already been seen to by someone? And now he's talking about his mother's hugs. Charming, but not what I asked. What were you doing when you got injured? His father used to sing him rhymes to sleep. Well, all of these questions that we can ask produce similar responses, all dating from his childhood. Temet intervenes, which is just as well. I doubt me shaking him would be helping much. She suggests that we need to work out if his condition is psychological or an actual biological issue. We can ask him some more basic questions, like for his name, where he is or the time of year, but still no luck. Temet categorises this as an altered mental state and suggests a hyperencephalogram to check his brain tissue. We grab the appropriate scanner and give him a look, and quickly we can find a cortical implant that's causing his brain to light up with hyperactivity. It could perhaps be a malfunctioning implant of sorts that needs calming down, but whatever it's there for, it's causing him to relive his earliest memories. Looking through the supplies again, we can find a series of new chemicals. Neurozine, the last one, despite having neuro in the name, is a potent anaesthetic, so not that then. Anitrizine can calm nerve impulses, but can cause interference with neurological implants. Well, despite that being a side effect, that might be just what the doctor ordered. Anisazine is a common anaesthetic, as is Axonol, and Melanex is another light-out drug that can cause skin discoloration. Tempting, but no. So, anitrizine it is, and we deliver the hyperspray, and sure enough it interferes with the cortical implant's functions, and the patient regains some lucidity. He tells us that the implant was put there by a Breen field medic, and naturally he wants it out. Well, not being overly familiar with Deferi biology, nor Breen cranial implants, we talk to Dr. Cossa. Before he attempts to remove the device, he suggests we should pay a visit to the Breen prisoners in the brig. Any information on the function of the implant would greatly help Cossa's efforts to remove it. We make our way through the corridors to the brig and find the place bathed in the amber lights of the force fields. Several cells have captives within, and Tarsi, having been listening in it seems, calls in with some advice on dealing with the Breen. Well, as far as we know, they have a warrior's ethos, but they will do whatever is expedient and practical. She points out their use of slavery as an example, and she gives us a warning that despite this, they are concerned with personal honour and do not act without intent, so accusing them of mindless slaughter would annoy them and cause them to close up. We can talk to the 3 prisoners to see which will be the most communicative. The one in the back says his name is Trun, and the one at the front appears to be the commander and loyal to Thot Trell. He certainly has a lot to say, but it's all propaganda sounding spiel about how we will never win and blah blah blah, you're in prison, I'm not, goodbye. And the final one doesn't even give us a name, so looks like we're going to go talk to Tran. He tells us that he is part of the Fifth Order and is acting on orders from the Breen Confederacy. We can ask him what a civilian transport that he attacked has to do with the Breen Confederacy, but he says that he doesn't want to talk within earshot of his commander. He may disagree with his orders, but he won't throw his superior's dishonour back in his face. Well, that can be sorted easily enough. We just go and activate the Breen Commander Cell's audio proofing. There we go, Tran. Now we can speak freely. We learn that the commander selected the civilian target for information. Tran disagreed, but a soldier follows orders, admitting that he simply assumed he didn't have the big picture, so attacking a Deferi civilian freighter must be worth it. He has a strong personal conviction, though, not to target civilians, and finds this whole action lacking honour, and regrets his part. We then learn that he is in fact the field medic that implanted the cortical nodes in a number of Deferi here. He calls them subspace cortical implants. They sift through and interpret memories, then transmit the collected data through subspace to a receiver station. They're a barbaric device used in lieu of an interrogation. As Tarsi said, the Breen are fans for the faster and more efficient method. We can lay on the guilt now, see if we can get him to cooperate, and after getting him to dwell on the severity and pain these devices can cause, he agrees to help remove them. Returning to Dr. Cossa, we give him the news, who says that in our absence he's learned that the targeting of the Deferi's childhood memories seems to be deliberate, with a focus on children's stories and rhymes. Cossa says that many of these tales centre around the Preservers and stories like their lost library, their supposed archive of information. Well, that sounds like a tempting target, if it really existed. Returning to Tran, he gives us a method to contact some like-minded Breen, who feel that fighting the Deferi is one thing, but civilian targets is another. Returning to the daring, Ambassador Surratt is apprised of the situation, who believes that the Breen may indeed be looking for this lost Preserver archive. Like all Deferi children, he can recall such tales and stories, but was always uncertain of their truthfulness, considering their use as children's rhymes and the fact that they've never encountered any intact Preserver installations. Soon after this, however, Surra reports that the Breen have landed on Defera once again. They must have made use of our absence to slip in, so we set a course at maximum warp for Defera and journey on our way. On entering the system, Temets informs us of recent developments. The Deferi have confirmed from a distance that there is some data resembling an incomplete star chart that has somehow been activated within the Preserver site we visited previously. We're going to have to beam down. We arrive on the outskirts of the city and make our way east to the ruins. Well, it looks like the Breen that were here are gone. Whatever they did, they were in and out. Temet, who has been leaving her studies running it seems, has received a match between these ruins layouts and a site in the Bijan system. The natives of this system seem to be able to gain access to their Preserver site by standing on tiles and facing certain cardinal directions. Many such Preserver sites have such simple methods to gain entry, as the species that the Preservers had relocated initially had such limited levels of technology. The one on the world of Amarind, for example, was the first encountered by Starfleet, was accessed by any phrase that matched a harmonic and syllabic tone. This was so that if ever needed, the civilization could conduct repairs to their structures, meaning that the Preservers actually had taken the time to instruct a small percentage of their preserved on how to maintain the technology. Alright, well, we order the members of the away teams to stand on each one of these corner panels while Hale here can take the centre one. Okay, so this hasn't worked completely. So I tried replicating the instructions that were found on the ruins at the Bijan system, but that didn't work. So I just sort of span at random and selected other tiles until something happened. Science. Maybe Temet should have taken the middle podium. Sensors from the Daring confirm that something inside the structure is rearranging, and soon a holographic display is beamed from the central plinth. It appears to be a star chart overlaid on a spiral-like display. But we can't take a hologram with us like this, so we can record the image on the tricorder. Immediately on returning to orbit, however, the Breen are waiting for us and attack. It's only the 3 ships, and we've fended off worse already. My guess is they've been sent here to slow us down, because now us and the Breen have the same information, and it looks like a race to the finish line. During the fight, Astrophysics has been analysing the chart fragment and located a marker in the Sahinga system. With that being the only obvious destination, I expect the Breen have made for there too, so let's match the course and head out. Sahinga is an L-class world, early in its development. There are signs of microorganisms on its surface, but nothing more complex yet. Give it a few millennia and we might be looking at the next galactic power, who knows. Now, this mission is an open one, meaning it will automatically pair you with any other player on this point in their quest too, which is what happens to me. On entering this system, we detect a gaseous anomaly and plot a course for it. Taking a sample, Temet confirms it as a unique substance. The science teams get hurriedly to work on analysing just what it is. It turns out by superimposing the compound on a diagram of this system, another marker points us to the small moon of the L-class world, where we set a course for it at full impulse, cutting as close as we can to a straight line, even skimming the planet's atmosphere along the way. Turns out that moon is hollow and had a database inside it referring to 2 asteroids. Well, we only have 1, but there is an expansive debris field, so maybe there were 2 once upon a time. Once again, we set a course for the remains and were able to extract another fragment of a star chart, one that seems to be of a similar style to the first that we found. Now, all of this information was conveyed through text, so don't worry, you're not missing out on anything cool like beaming down to the moon or anything. We did all of this with transporters and phasers. Because there's no time for sightseeing, we're in a race, damn it. As before, a destination presents itself, the Manak system. Here there is another L-class world, which lies uninhabited, though once a civilization did live here some 25,000 years ago, and some preserver ruins have been noted to have been found there. But study has yet to be conducted by Starfleet because the environment is too hazardous. When we get there, however, we discover that the Breen have beaten us to it and are trying to make off with their prize. We engage them and they beat a hasty retreat, but we intercept their unsecured message. They really are in a hurry. It's another piece of the star chart. The final puzzle takes us back to a familiar location. Rava 2 once more. The icy blue system seems to be our final stop on this hectic space race. We've passed through a myriad of systems, all of which show some level of preserver involvement, but I can't help but speculate the purpose of the Deferi ruins. A star chart in the cryptic way it was all laid out. A basic culture could figure out the Defera ruins given time, but a holographic star chart? Only an advanced civilization could fathom that, let alone follow it. Then it leads us to a destination where we have to recognise a synthetic gas as a clue and overlay its compound with orbital mechanics and follow the breadcrumbs back to Rava. It's almost like a test of ability? But damn it, my musings are wasting time and the Breen are here in force. Well, some are, it seems. There are 3 teams, spread all over the surface, which we're going to have to neutralise before we can continue. It wouldn't do for us to have our prize stolen from us the minute we uncover it. Also, I really should have brought a coat, although this is probably a summer's day for Tarsi. We skirt around the edge of the crater to get the height advantage. Well, surely the Breen wouldn't try us if we have the high ground. Although reaching the lip of the crater, we sight movement ahead. It's a Breen patrol. Looks like I underestimated their power. With the ridge secure, we move in from behind to flank the remaining patrols, and they're short skirmishes. Maybe they weren't expecting us. We have been rather quick on their trail after all. Securing the area, we are now able to follow our own scans that have unveiled a cavern, now sealed by ice, where the Breen were circulating. And we knock. Tactical Captain style. Inside the small cave are some panels that clearly resemble those seen on Defera's ruins. Preserver devices there can be no doubt. Above these are what look like giant brass test tubes of crackling energy emitting a low hum, under which a single control panel is elevated. Its simplistic control is almost designed as if they are to be easily understood. And as soon as we touch the panel, several things happen. The Breen beam in, and another stylized star chart fragment is projected. One of the Breen crouches down at the chart and then beams out immediately. I feel like we should have stopped that. We should have fired. Thought Trell, once again as he did before, calls us from the safety of his ship to mock us or thank us for doing the legwork. The man's delusional. He must have destroyed at least 6 Breen ships in this chase. He offered us a chance to retreat amid many threats and insults. He tells us that Thought Pa here would love a chance at payback on us for killing Gran. Well, Pa doesn't give us the chance to surrender, and instead attacks us. Smart lad. In this enclosed space, the Breen cryo-weapons can be deadly, so we make use of the limited movement to circumvent their attacks. Alternatively, we could have pushed through them and pinned them in the small cave and filled it with grenades. Either way, we weather the blizzard of fire and put down yet another overly ambitious Breen commander. Temet suggests that we obtain the final chart fragment and put it all together. Assembling it reveals a very decorative looking star chart twisted into a spiral around a central orb. We beam the completed works to the Daring for analysis, but all too aware of the fact that the Breen have this data too. We too return to the ship and report to Ambassador Sura of our sudden progress. He notes that his teams will also look into the charts as well, but they'll have to account for millennia of stellar drift, so it could take some time to match it with current star formations. Hopefully this means too that the Breen will be stumped for a long time as well. And if there's something Starfleet knows, it's space travel. Nothing to do now but wait for the charts to be deciphered, and then we can set a course for its destination. Speculation and nursery rhymes say that this could be the Lost Preserver archive, but in reality who knows what's waiting for us. The Breen believe that it will be a trove of amazing technology on par with ancient cultures like the Iconians, and I guess that's reason enough to try to stop them. But as Medic Tran said, not all the Breen are keen on the idea of attacking the Deferi, and we may be dealing with just an extreme element here in Trell. Nonetheless, we'll find out soon, and I hope you'll be there for the next part as we continue to explore the expanding narrative of Star Trek Online, and I hope to see you next time. I've been Rick. Stay safe out there, and goodbye.